This week on Let's Cover Korea, you may have heard of big IPs coming out of Korea, such as K pop Demon Hunters, maybe Parasite, or this little thing called Squid Games. But the LCK has the hottest, newest story that you're going to want to watch. And it's all because of our friend, Jiwoo and DRX, making it out of Play-In's Wolf as he gets a double POM, and the squad were able to make it into playoffs. 4 Rise teams into the playoffs compared to just 2 Legend teams from 2025, Gen G and T1. Double POM, it's all because of Jiwoo. This is the hottest story out of Gangnam, where they make the biggest K dramas, K culture that gets eaten up across the world. It's time to introduce all of you to the Jiwooverse.
Now I wanna
Now,
I wanna contextualize this, like, so Jiwooverse has been going on basically since he joined in 2023. So this was the meme roster, right? The Nongshim, Dundun, Sylvie, Fiesta, Jiwoo, Peter, like challengers promotion roster in 2023. So this was 3 years ago where this story started. Just to give you guys context, like this has been going on for a while. I've heard rumors and rumblings about this, like it's been referenced in some some discussions that have happened on the Korean desk, and there's been people mentioning it to me like in kind of offhand, and me being like, what are you guys talking about? And this has been going on for so long, and the memes keep coming up and keep getting rehashed and updated, basically, that it's no longer just this Geo meme, it's the Geoverse, right? Like it's the Jiwooverse, which is this entire storyline of him. And to further contextualize this before we start actually getting into this, because we have a whole document made up to like basically give you guys the whole history and how it's changed over time. uh in Korea, a lot of TV shows are completely changed and localized in names are changed, right? Especially Japanese TV shows to make the characters' names Korean. So you guys know Ash Ketchum, of course. I don't even know what Ash is called in Japanese off the top of my head, but in Korea he's Jiwoo. So this is why you'll see a lot of pictures of Jiwoo wearing Ash's hat on the internet. You may have actually seen this before because Jiwoo is Ash in Korea. So that's kind of how this meme started.
yeah. So let's dive into the Jiwooverse. Jiwoo debuted in the LCK 2023 summer, where on June 18th, he promoted to Nongshim's main roster of Dindin, Sylvie, Fiesta, Jiwoo, and Peter in Vital's old spot. Peyz also made his debut in 2023 of the LCK, making Jiwoo and Peyz LCK debut buddies or siblings. Let's dive into the beginning of the Jiwooverse.
So the Geoverse was created where in 2023, Nongshim was seen as a dysfunctional family where poor young Jiwoo was the breadwinner that everybody pitied. You guys remember back in that roster, everyone was like, Jiwoo's the only person who could do anything on this team. Dundon was seen as the father, okay? But the irresponsible dad who would always gamble the family's savings away in the top lane. This was a
If
reference
it,
to Dindin's playstyle, of course. If you guys don't remember Dindin, remember the 07 Jacks, go to Chronicles Challenger stream VODs, find out he would just basically throw the game in 50-50s on the top lane and usually go for sick outplays that like failed most of the time. So basically every prio, everything that Jiu got in the game was tossed away often by Dindin. So like Gio is working hard, he's farming in the bottom lane, he's trying to get it, he's trying to get something going. They have Prio down there, and Dindin just tosses away. So basically, they said he's now the gambling father who's an irresponsible dad, ruining the family. And so that's where this started. So it starts off with this because remember Ash Ketchum's father is also out of the picture in the anime as well.
Now, Dindin was attempting to get better, and so there are times where he would play safe and not go for risky plays. And people would say that Dindin was going through rehab. But the moment Dindin would start dying and throwing, people would say Dindin is back to his gambling ways, where the irresponsible father gambling his son's tuition happened again. This led to the creation of Dindin's nickname, Dinbuji, which is a mixture of Dindin and Abuji, the word for father in Korean.
So a lot of the time in Korea, supports get the image of mother because they're the carrying ones, right? Especially a lot of players who like to play enchanter supports, they get the mother image, right? So this is where it ended up being that where you go into this.
I can't believe
Peter let Shoes Smolder get sniped by Gumbushi's bar. So you guys remember? If you guys don't remember, go back and watch the VOD. T1 versus Nongshim. It probably has a ton of views because it was like one of the longest games in LCK history. Reggia's Smolder is stacking. He has tons of wave clear with that. So they're trying, basically, they're almost doing what T1 did to KT a few weeks ago in this game, just trying to hold on and scale with the Smolder pick. And then Guma does have Varus, right? As his pick. And Guma snipes him. You guys probably remember this game if you were around for it. And Jiu dies and the game ends. But Peter had his heal up. I don't even remember what game or what support Peter was playing, but basically he just left Gio out to die. So it built further the dysfunctional narrative of the family. So now Gio has dysfunctional father in Dun Dun, and Peter is just not looking out for him.
this was in sharp contrast to his fated sibling in Peyz back on Gen G in 2023 and 2024, where he debuted in a much more loving family environment. Unlike Dindin, he had stable and steady Keen in the top lane as his father. He also had Lahens, who at the time hadn't gotten worse, who was a loving and caring mom who would take good care of Peyz. And Peyz was already given the nickname Nim, which is young master, upon debut in 2023 because there were rumors born from a news article that Peyz's parents had hired an ex world champion AD carry to tutor Peyz one-on-one before he became a trainee for Gen G. And that person is widely considered and rumored to be Imp, world champion Samsung Galaxy Imp, to coach Peyz.
So you have all of these narratives forming at the same time, right? As we go through this document and give you guys all the backstory of this meme. So around this time, like look at the difference in debut. Pei is super hyped 80 carry, right? Coming out of challengers, Chronicler hyped him up a ton specifically. But on the Korean side, people are saying this guy was really good. He goes into Gen G as keen as his father, right? Like everything is looking solid for this guy. He has Lehens, who is also incredibly strong at this time, to kind of train him up as well and get him into shape for playing in pro. And then he even has like this kind of I guess pseudo rich family rumors and storyline going on around him at the same time. So it does kind of feel familiar in terms of if you're a Pokemon fan of like Ash and Gary, right? and and so like there's this rivalry brewing between these two, but it looks like it's not really a rivalry. It's just poor Peyz who's having his rookie year, or poor
Poor
Jiu
Jiwoo.
having his rookie year, and Peyz who's just like everything is fed to him, golden spoon, right? Like he has everything he could ever want. And that's kind of again how this starts the branching paths between these two.
Yeah, they would say that Jiwoo would be the kid from the lower income family that would try to be friends with Peyz because they would meet on the Rift. And on the Rift, Peyz would say, "Oh, I don't interact with poor people like you," and continually get the win against Nongshim and Jiwoo. So at the end of 2024, the Jiwooverse had Dindin, the gambling addict father in the top lane, Peter, the uncaring mother who wasn't willing to sacrifice for her son, Jiwoo, the young breadwinner of a dysfunctional family, and Peyz, the silver spooner who had caring parents like Keen and Lahens to take care of him and would look down on Jiwoo. But in 2025, that's where things change because Lahens moved from Gen G to Nongshim and Kingen moved from D plus to Nongshim. So we get a new character in season 2. And then Peyz went to JDG. So the tables of the Jiwooverse had been shifted 180 degrees for Jiwoo and Peyz. Jiwoo now had a reliable family man that was respected in the top lane in Kingen as his stepfather and a brand new loving stepmother in
This
Lahens
is
coming straight off of multiple championships and where he was notably impactful on the development of 80
this is when I
carries.
started to know about the meme. Like around this time is when I first really heard about the meme because people were mentioning like so people were saying things around the idea of like, oh, Gio has pays his mom now. And I was like, what? Does that mean? But like obviously Lehens and Peyz were a bottom duo, and now Gio was playing with Lehens. So now that we know the meme, and now that I'm more familiar with like the whole chronological setup of it, it makes a lot of sense in terms of this like really funny meme. So Kingen coming as stepfather. Everyone remembers Kingen 2025 last year. Really great performance, especially on picks like the Rumble. So this is a very different arc. And now Peyz, in sharp contrast, in this meme has been banished to China. So he's like no longer in the LCK, banished to China. And this is often a thing that like a lot of Korean fans will say about Korean players who are like washed, right? Like that can't make it in the LCK and they go play on a mid to lower LPL team. Same thing with like going to the LCS or the LEC. If you end up going there middle of your career, nobody says it about players who go to the LEC like as their debut because they couldn't find a spot in the LCK.
Oh,
So he's banished to China. There's a negative connotation, especially when top players go to China, because it feels like you've lost the player, as we've talked about many times. But anyway, so this is being compared to like a romance novel cliche,
yeah.
where the female protagonist in a medieval setting from a ruined family is banished as like a servant or a maid or a peasant to a foreign country. Is like Peyz has just been banished to China. Like he's a peasant. He's going over there and has to work for JDG.
Yeah, but you're thinking JDG, not too bad, right? But wait, JDG is also signed Scout after, moving on from different mid laners. They signed Scout in 2025. And this was in the middle of the EDG versus Scout contract lawsuits that were still going on, where the Chinese court had originally ruled that Scout had to pay EDG 4 mil. So we go from top lane flipping it, and that was like, oh, we're gambling the in-game losses, to Scout, who was in a legal battle against EDG at that time. This is, so a 1-to-1 comparison to Din. And now the stepfather in the mid lane had bad financials with millions of unpaid
Yeah, it's
debts,
like
which is
Scout's a
crazy.
good guy, but he's got millions of dollars in debt. You know, like the new stepfather not looking as clean. Um, and I mean that's depending on your opinion of the whole Scout situation. Uh,
Yeah.
but now Gio had stolen Peyz's mom and Lehen, so now Gio has the caring, loving family, and Peyz is the one who's being thrown into a hostile, dysfunctional family environment while also being banished to a foreign country. So the tables have turned. Now
Yeah.
Gio is maybe looking on the rise, on the up and up.
Yeah, the K drama is in full effect. Everything is feeling good, that's how it always works, right? So in the 2025 saw the same Jiwooverse memes being made, but in reverse. Jiwoo is now the one looking down on Peyz, where the memes would come out in full force in early portions of 2025. This was during the Noxus patch when Nongshim were doing really well. They surprised and made it out of the Rise group into the Legend group, whereas JDG were struggling. They were trying to figure it out. It was a difficult year for this JDG squad. However, Jiwoo would play less and less, or the Jiwooverse would play less and less in Jiwoo's favor the longer that 2025 went on, as Nongshim, with their off-brand top support-centric playstyle, left Lehens roaming often, and that would leave Jiwoo alone in the bot lane. And we had lots of comments of that on the space and on the broadcast.
Yeah, so you'd see this is like when you would see a lot of people talking about like Gio just heat up a pizza, like Lance gets POM and it's like just heat up a pizza, or like I left money on the table or something like that. It's like some of the comments you'd see on the care side. This is basically just like Lance is like, I'm gonna go out, I'm going out, I'm meeting my friends. You're old enough to take care of yourself now. I'm hanging out with Kingen, basically. Like me and Dad are going out and is going on dates with Kingen, playing through the top side, and Gio's just getting left alone. Now, this is also last year where Gio was considered by many to be the worst AD carry in the LCK,
Yeah.
and like a lot of that was on his own individual errors in lane, which is probably why from a contextual standpoint, Lehens was probably playing through Kingen, who was their strongest player at the time, a little bit more than playing through Gio. So this like happened in real life because of the performances of Gio, likely right, and Lehens playing through the top side, but it kind of came into the meme as well. So you see those in the comments all the time about like don't worry, there's frozen pizza, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
With Lens just being like peace out, by the way.
And to hammer it home in Lehens' character development, the champions that he was playing were not for bot. It was like Elise. It'd be like, okay, we get one gank. All right, I'm ganking around the map. See you later. It would be Shen. Okay, looks like King is finding top lane. Gotta go up top to go with your stepfather and leave Jiwoo alone. And then Jiwoo would die in these one-on-ones. And the KR side would reference these moments, these mistaken errors in terms of positioning and learning how to play one-on-one as going through puberty, because he was rebelling and going through a teenager phase, because he was no longer just a little kid. He was no longer just a rookie here, Wolf. At this point,
Yeah,
this was his third year
this is
in the
the
LCK.
Jiu going through puberty meme is so funny. Cloud Templar and the Care side like often reference these memes in such a specific dark way, but like in a very accurate way, right? Because there were so many games where we were like, "Oh, Gio, you can't catch that wave, man," or like, you really need to flash that if they're trying to dive you," and he would just die. But it really felt like he was like, "You know what? I can get this wave." Like he's going through that teenage rebellious phase, and the enemy AD carry is just like, "All right, I kill you here." It happened in the mid lane all the time in those 1v1s, but it happened in the bottom lane as well when supports were roaming a ton last year through the lane swap. So Pony Pony had this specific comment. So we talked about some of the comments, right? Like Pony had one that specifically said, "Gee, there's leftover lasagna in the fridge. Microwave that for dinner." And it is just more references to like what was going on around that time in terms of the Jiwooverse. And in the final chapter of 2025, though, was at ASI, so where we did see, of course, Nongshim participating, and people use the quote from Squid Game season one. So if you guys probably seen Squid Game, right? Uh, and Sangwoo is the pride of Sangmundong. And he asks him like, "What's the pride of Sangmundong, Sangwoo Cho doing here?" When they run into each other, and this is Peyz was also there because Peyz like basically this is G was saying, "Why are you at ASI? Like you were the golden boy, you were the one who had the golden spoon, you were the one who was fed everything." By Genji. Like everyone said you were so great, and now we're both here at ASI, by the way. Like, what's the pride of LCK and Genji Peyz doing here? So if you guys know the Squid Game reference from that time, you know, now it's being referenced here, basically saying like, "Do you suck now, Peyz? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah,
And
because
obviously, Gio didn't
ASI,
literally say this, but like, this is the meme, right?
yeah, because ASI was the Asian tournament for the teams that didn't make it to World. So it was for 5, 6, and 7 of LCK, 5, 6, 7 of LPL, and then I think it was a couple of LCP teams that made it there. So they met in this non-Worlds death match of rejects that didn't make it to Worlds. And so that was the ending chapter of it there. Again, B&K Fearx ended up winning that one. But then it leads us to today, where you, me, Wolf are all at. In 2026 led one more trade. Jiwoo moving to DRX and Peyz rumored to return to the LCK after a pretty difficult year in the LPL. But as the LCK fans like to call it, he spent a tough year training in the Jindong Gravity Chamber, JDG Gravity Chamber, right? You know, kind of like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, that's where the 80 carries, the Korean 80 carries go, suffer, and come back stronger. That's why it's the Jindong Gravity Chamber. That's what happens. You go there, you suffer, you come back better.
Now, when the news dropped that Peyz had returned to T1, it was back to the original Jiwooverse. That's always a good season 3 when you go back and you're like, again, after suffering a year financially with his irresponsible stepfather and scout and 3 different coaches throughout 2025, Peyz was now rewarded. He got adopted into the T1 Chebol family, the rich family with who better than a stepfather named Faker and a stepmother named Keria to take care of him, compared to Jiwoo, who lost his upstanding stepfather in Kingen and, you know, well-respected stepmother in Lahens, and now has Rich and Undle.
And so people have these memes like back from the original 2023 meme coming back, basically just like rehashing them and having like these posts where like Pace is just looking at you and saying, "Poor people stay poor," and like you and I were just different. So This whole meme, like this whole concept has been used in so many parts of media. So if you look back at a lot of it, you'll see a lot of these things we're talking about, especially like with Gio and the ash hat, but the lasagna in the fridge, blah blah blah, all that stuff has been really funny, really cool. And it is funny that Peyz obviously both of his times in the LCK went straight to top teams, right? Like he had never had to like suffer a struggle. To be fair, like his time in Genji, the Genji Challenger squad he was at was not a strong team. He was clearly the strongest part of that team. Kind of like how Diablo did. He didn't end up obviously on T1 or Genji, but like his background is very similar to Peyz's, where you're like, okay, this guy's really talented. Everybody's like, this guy's going to do big things when he came into the LCK. So we'll see how this meme develops further this year, because Jiwoo is actually finding some success here early, and because of the way that play-ins broke out, I think he's getting a lot of hype around him. I've been kind of trying to see if there's been big updates or anything that's happened yet this season around like Andil being the new the new
The new
stepmom in
mother.
bottom lane. Yeah,
Yeah.
like we haven't really seen anything just yet. It hasn't quite developed, but I think probably people are going to be making some more of these memes. But I think it was fun to show you guys this part of how Korean fandom sometimes takes a joke, turns into a really long running joke, and just never lets it go. Kind of like how in the West we have a lot of running memes, but they're usually a little bit less detailed and complicated than this. Like for example, the KT clean 2-0 nothing to see here has been around forever, and everyone knows it, and everyone mentions it, and people apply it also to other teams now as well. Or the KT, for example, KT has all the memes. The
KT
KT,
has all the moves.
aka a K word, T word, and and then like then it's just like a long meme about how they're like terrible or awesome depending on what happened on the day. And like this is a very fun way to kind of take a peek into how the Korean community not only will make memes like this, make them detailed, and sometimes even like too vividly detailed and like sometimes a bit, I don't want to say graphic, but like very negative, even though it's funny, right? Like at these players' expense, which is why a lot of people we talk about like players are always told like don't read FM Korea, don't read DC Inside, because you just don't probably shouldn't read what people are saying about you on these websites. But this is not like a meme about Chovy or Faker or our top players, right? Like this is about Gio and like and Peyz obviously who's a top player now and at the
Yeah.
time was like on track to be a top player. But it's more about Gio than it is about Peyz, and how the Korean community could even just latch on to like the sadness of Gio and turn it into just like such a funny story.
I want to know what you want to see out of the rest of 2026, because you know, Andal's not like a spring chicken anymore either. He's been up and down between challengers and on the fringe for a while. We've talked about him here on this show and on the broadcast. And I like him as the new stepmother who's earnest in trying her best. And then also, literally because fucking Rich on Scion earlier in this week ults the wall, right? He ults the wall on Scion like a pixel away from where he ults. I like him being like, again, the dad who is trying his best, right? Maybe he doesn't have a gambling addiction, but maybe he's just not that smart. And he knows he's not that smart, right? He bangs his head on walls to solve issues, but he's trying his best. And them making it, like, just think collectively. Andal couldn't get the starting spot last year with splitting time. Jiwoo was just constantly losing at the end of last year because of being in the legend group and, the team imploding. And then Rich, just got back to the league last year and suffered through so much of last year. Like, I like this as a season 3 positive cast trying to go against Peyz now, dragging in his well-to-do parents that have nothing to do with this. They don't know. They don't know this drama. They don't know they just signed a little devil who goes to people and says, "Poor people stay poor." Like, that to me is so exciting. And we'll have to see, because, the play on the Rift will dictate what happens, but it's some good angles to go with here.
Oh,
Likely, it's
100%.
more doom and gloom for for Jiwoo, Andal, and the rest of the Jiwooverse. However,
I,
I don't know,
the
man.
way the way I see it is both Rich and Andil are like trying too hard. You know what I mean? Like Andil takes every engage he can get. Like Andil is like he's like
Yeah.
working three different jobs to keep Gio like to keep him in a nice environment to where he can like continue his high school days. Like he's moving into high school now, and he's like just trying to make sure that he can stay and go to cram school after high school. And like that's like it's like the plays with Andil where he like flashes and kills Taeyun on the karma. Like he's like really putting in the effort. He's not gonna half-ass it. So he's like the mom that works like wakes up at 6 a.m., feeds the kid, then goes off to like her first job, goes to her second job, goes to her third job, and then Rich is just like the father who means really well. Like he means so well, and he also like oftentimes um tells Geo stories of like, believe it or not, your dad was once a legend in 20 2015, 2016. When I was younger.
God.
You best believe it.
Yeah. Oh my god. I got to travel the world. It was a great
You're not
time. And I
I
just
I
wanted
I come from a place where we call them heroes, we don't call them champions, and I
Oh
was a
wow.
legend.
Oh wow. That's the moment of season 4 of the
And
Jiwooverse.
and
Man, that's so good.
Gio's just like, "Okay, boomer." Doesn't
He's
care.
like, "Look, I know you don't care, but I just want to apologize for forgetting you at school sometimes. Like I forgot to pick you up, but I promise I'm doing my best." And then,
Exactly.
oh
That's
no.
exactly the angle.
Oh, let us know what you want to see at the Jiwooverse. And if you knew about this before or not in the comments below, like we just felt like it's plans, like we had varying levels of gameplay. So we needed to be able to laugh a little bit and share how deep the fandom goes here. With I think not just the top teams. I think the two big things that, as a Western fan who loves League and has covered League before coming out to Korea, the two hardest thing to wrap your head around is how massive the T1 fan base is, like specifically the T1 fan base is. It's so big. And then the second part is how deep the fan bases care about the smaller teams. Like they are so insanely dedicated. They are so insanely grateful to spend time with their pros and the team. Like they're holding on to the memory of DRX. Like we covered it last at the end of last year. DRX got trucked. Like DRX, ninth place DRX. We have the good feelings. They won the world championship. Everyone split. And they still care about that to the point where they're spending money to truck DRX. Not we're not talking Genji, we're not talking Hanwha, we're not talking Z Plus. We're talking DRX. And that just this level of fandom is so fun to cover, represent, and just observe and then share to everyone else here, Wolf.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, almost every LCK team has accomplished something like pretty huge. Like DRX winning a world championship, obviously Kingzone and Dragon X back in the day had some big successes. You have like Afrika at the time, made a LCK finals, right? Bro comes from Najin, technically speaking, so there's like some history there if you really
Hey,
look
hey,
into it.
hey.
I think Bro hasn't.
2024 Kespa Cup champions, Wolf.
True, true,
2024 Kespa Cup champion. That's
true.
recent.
So like really it's only Nongshim and B&K or Sandbox who haven't really earned like a I was the top dog at this moment.
ASI champion for B and K, but
Sure.
like I agree with your point on
And
a
like
big
so
scale.
for me it's like between these three also like Afrika had such a history in other games, right? Like in Overwatch where they were a top dog there. And Cartwriter and some other stuff. So like the org has weight behind it, especially because Afrika is such a huge company and now Soup obviously. So it's like really like bro when I think about it, Bro, Nongshim and B and K are the ones who haven't like won something big or done something huge, right? Like the yes, Kespa Cup meme and also yes, ASI, but these teams still have huge fan bases. Bros, I think, is one that probably could could stand to get bigger, but Bros fandom is like dominated by Westerners who come to the arena as well. So every team is unique. Hanwha's won an LCK, right? You know, you have the Rock's legacy behind that. KT Rolster, all time StarCraft team, right? With obviously having great success really early on in League of Legends. T1 and Genji, you don't have to say anything. D
D
plus
plus
world
world
champions.
championships. Yep.
So
Or
it's
champion finals. Yeah.
when you look at a lot of the results of recent League of Legends history, like in the last 4 years, 5 years, you're like, okay, it feels like there's only two teams because Genji and T1 have the biggest fandoms and they have the most results. And you look at like the Group Baron results and they're both sitting at 5-0, and you're like, okay, well, there's only two real teams in the LCK. But like you said, every other team has had their moment basically, and every other team has these massive fandoms. So it is really, really cool to see, like, you know, I mentioned earlier, stuff like this Jiwooverse coming out of just like a challengers player is making his debut at the same time as Peyz, and like the legacy that it carries over the next few years. And
Yeah.
now I'm just glad because I've wanted to talk about this so much, and we got it like crammed into a document as much as we could read it to you guys for the sake of time. And now I feel like I've said it, it's out there. I'm gonna reference it, send people to this video to hear about the Geoverse and they're not sure what it means.
Yes. Please, please, please. And uh Nongshim, I will accept jerseys or other signs for promoting your team. Nongshim social media, the best social media in League of Legends. They are so funny. It's so good and so self-aware as well. So if you need a team to follow or a secondary team to follow because your team's so successful and wins all the time, Nongshim not bad. Nongshim not bad.
Not at all.
Okay. Now before we continue and cover what happened in play-ins and get into playoffs, it's time to remind you about our friends over at Raycon. This message is sponsored by Raycon. With the Super Bowl wrapped up and the Winter Olympics ongoing this month, there's no better time to get inspired to push harder and upgrade your workout routine. Whether you're training consistently or when you're training consistently, the right gear makes all the difference. I've been using Raycon's essential open earbuds and they've completely changed how I work. They don't block out everything around you so you can stay aware while running, lifting, or walking outside without sacrificing clear, motivating sound. Your music or podcasts like ours stay crisp and you stay focused and safe. And now is the perfect time to grab them because they're 15% off. Now, regular earbuds block everything out. Sometimes you can't hear someone calling your name or a car honking or anything, but these Raycons sit just outside your ear canal so you can get a really clear sound, but actually hear what's happening around you as well. That awareness is perfect for tackling your fitness resolutions safely. Now, they also have the really light ear hook parts as that rotate and are comfortable so they actually stay in. I wore them at the gym, on walks, and doing stuff around the house so they don't fall out and they don't get uncomfortable. And Raycon has over 3 million customers, and the sound quality is just as good as the bigger, more expensive brands. They're half the price because they don't end up paying for celebrity endorsements and all that extra retail markup stuff. And if you don't like them, they have a 30-day guarantee. So you've heard me talk about it multiple times. I bought multiple different pairs because I kept losing them after they gave me the one earlier because they are that good. The 36-hour battery life with 8 hours of playtime, super fast charging if you need it in a quick go, 10 minutes, and you're ready to go out the door. Multi-point connectivity where you can connect multiple devices and switch seamlessly without the hassle. It is the go-to earbuds. So head on over to buyraycon.com/LCKOpen to get 15% off. The essential open earbuds are here to help you go for gold. That's buyraycon.com/LCKOpen to get 15% off. Thanks to our friends over at Raycon. Okay. Wolf, now I alluded to it at the top of the show. If you look at the results from last year and then the playoff teams this year, it's 4 Rise teams and Genji and T1. Like that is it's early. It's early. We don't get too excited. Maybe D plus shouldn't been a Rise team last year, but either way, 4 Rise teams: KT, Hanwha, and Nongshim all out with my bros. But it's just surprising to see the turnaround from these teams and maybe how this meta fits them, and also just how a couple of clutch moments don't go the way of KT and it flips the whole thing on its
I
head.
the way I look at this is in terms of unexpected results. In terms of looking at like, okay, these legend group teams or former legend group teams from 2025 are out of the tournament. Hanwha Life Esports, we kind of found out pretty early this was a high chance. So that part we were like, we're still a little bit disappointed by it, but we knew, okay, this team is not performing as well as it should. But they still got kind of wrecked by the format. I think if they were in this play-ins, they might have been able to make it through. It's hard to say definitively. Like, I don't think they beat D plus, but they might have beaten anyone else if they have a good day. KT also should have known, both KT fans should have known the moment they saw that the support was Polywer Ghost, that this team was not going to reach the heights, at least not initially here, without a lot of time and a lot of luck that KT had last year. So that shouldn't come, I think, as a surprise to really anyone. But Nongshim, which was, by the way, like not our most impressive Legend Group team last year. They didn't go to the World Finals.
No.
They really dropped the ball yesterday specifically. Again, most people expected
13 out
basically
of
literally everyone
14.
except Atlas, who admitted to us that he kind of voted against them on a whim because he thought Taeyun would underperform, and literally that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that is what
Uh,
happened.
but everybody performed poorly. Like Taeyun individually looked pretty bad, but the whole team straight up just I don't even want to say ran it down. They just took every bad fight and then they executed in fights poorly. Like mechanically made a lot of errors. It was like everyone was playing like they were nervous, they had no confidence, they were playing like every game, even game 1, they were like playing as if they were down 0-2 and they better flip it, like they got to go for some crazy all in. And like we alluded to at the beginning of the show, Jiwoo just got fed early, and so that was the end of the game. Um I think this roster, Nongshim's roster, I wouldn't call it a super team, but it is densely packed with talent, right? Like Kingen,
Yeah.
their best performing player from last year. Scout, he's Scout, right? Like not the greatest performance last year. Obviously, a lot of people have been, really hitting that point home. But he's Scout, right? He's a veteran, massive talent. Like you compare him to UCal, and you're like, man, is he the same as UCal now? I guess maybe in terms of his actual power level.
Yeah.
But that's crazy, right? That's probably not how it should be. And then you have obviously Lahens, who has been a little bit shaky as of late, and Taeyun, who we always know is somewhat of a coin flip, especially here in Korea. We in the global side have really been quite low on him since his debut on DRX, and now he's uh like just a few days ago we were like, oh, he's actually playing well, and
Yep.
then he has the game like we had the other day. I think this is an incredibly disappointing result for Nongshim. I think if DNS or DRX drop out and don't make it to playoffs, you're like, well, it's okay. Like these teams, we didn't expect them to do too much. Like we didn't expect them to be a top team, and it's still early, and there's still a lot of excuses you can make for those teams. In my mind, you know what I mean? Like DNS like has Pyoshik on the roster. Ducked on My Life have the pre-existing synergy, and Dudu was pretty rough last year. You're like, I don't know. This roster is interesting, but like it's not a shock that they're out. And then DRX, you're like, well, Gio was worst AD carry last year in a lot of people's minds. Andil is
Yep.
super inconsistent. UCal benched last year, if you guys remember. And then Rich and Willer wasn't even in the LCK, and Rich was not one of our top performers. You look at that roster and you're like, okay, well, like they might make it to the playoffs maybe, and then get 3-0 by anybody they meet, which is probably actually what's going to happen next week when they do go into playoffs. But I look at this and I go, yeah, Hanwha, we're all shocked, but we were all shocked a while ago, and like we kind of knew it was a strong possibility of happening. We knew they were going to lose to Genji. Most people predicted they were going to lose to Genji 3-0. Nongshim, this is the shocker, and like they really dropped the ball. And you could drop the ball in a best of 3 in the group battle, right? You could have that Hanwha series where you drop a game to Bro, and you're like, oh, we kind of messed this one up. We kind of choked here. We threw really hard and we lost a game to Bro. Like that can happen to anybody. That can happen at any time. It cannot happen when your tournament life is on the line and you have a best of 5, because you can have one fluke game where you're like, ooh, bit of a throw on Scuttle. Oops. Guess we go next. You can't do it 3 times and get 3-0'd and look like clowns because that's what happened. Like, I don't even think DRX looked that good. Did anything even memorable happen with UCal in the entire series? Like, did UCal? I don't even remember what UCal played. It was just like,
Yeah.
okay, Ando's making plays, Taemin's getting wrecked, Kingen is going joining fights late or not joining at all and side laning on Sion, and Jiu just he's fed because they made mistakes and the AD carry is the one who gets fed in this meta. I mean, generally that's what happens if you take a bunch of skirmishes where the AD carry gets multi kills. But in this meta with the role quest, you get even more money, you get even larger, you get even more out of control. And I don't know, Nongshim looked lost, and they put Kingen on Sion again, which is I was saying it yesterday. I feel like he either has the Sion performance of a lifetime, or he just looks like he's never played Sion before, and he looked like he's never played Sion before.
You called it. Yeah. And again, this is a DRX team that got undressed by D plus. Like that D plus series was the shortest
Dumpstered,
series in play-ins.
dunked
Like
on.
it,
Not
it,
even a
it
second did DRX have any chance in that series.
they did 2 flips at the first crab and then the game was over. And a lot of streamers say that, casters say that, and we say that sometimes, and then people throw afterwards, especially in this meta. That was not the case. DRX were there to lose. They were there to lose to D plus. And after that, it was like, how can you predict them? Because you see how low their floor is. And also, to be fair, like D plus won all the coin flips, so their ceiling or their ceiling was super high that day, and they were able to match that. But it still felt so unbelievable. And then to have like Nongshim just put out an absolute crapper of a best of 5 series where you have multiple chances to do something. Like I need to reiterate that the Nongshim 80 carry role for the last, for 2025 and 2026 has been the worst playing position in the LCK, and that includes my boy Hype from last year. That includes knowing what Teddy's playstyle is this year. Like it was bad by Taeyeon. It was so bad. I was watching the Varus game in game 3. It
The
was
Varus game was
ugly
actually
bad.
so out of control. That was the worst one, and they ended up going for lethal tempo, I guess, because they opted for the Renata lane because they kind of ran out of supports and they had to go for something like that. Deep in the series, I mean, deep in the series in Game 3, like they got the Varus, like the prime flex insane 80 carry pick that's super broken on this patch, and he went lethal tempo and just couldn't do it. I mean, he got outplayed in a few of those fights, but like he kind of part of the reason why they ended up losing so hard was because he was like, "Oh, we almost got the kill. I'm gonna go up and try to get it," and then dies, right?
Yep.
Because he's trying to like shoot an arrow over wall, doesn't have vision. His positioning was not great. I think we can definitively say that he was the worst performing AD carry this season. I think we can say that, right? Like, I don't think aiming was worse,
No.
and like you can make an argument like about Lehens versus Palu slash Ghost, which support was better. I think it was Lehens probably. I I I don't like this this position run with Taeyun because we've all been here before in the LCK with this guy.
Yep.
On hit Varus was like his favorite thing to play, and he played it back
They
then
gave it
like
to
he
him.
played it here. Like they were like, your Varus is bad, you can have it. He was like, but it's my favorite. Oh
It's my
God.
favorite. But then
I
also
just
like
don't
Nongshim, they draft Renata. Like they put the game in your hands. This is on you, bro. And he just messes it up. He's not landing his spells. He's not cycling his skills. He gets caught on the recall. Like it was just not. I don't know. It just feels like if you're gonna be the guy that's like, all right, put me in put me in the spot, coach. Like I'm the guy. I'm your cowbell running back. I'm the one hitting cleanup, to hit the grand slams. And it's just 1, 2, 3, you're out. Like it's so bad. It's so bad. And thankfully there's, a month and a half to reflect and try to see, am I that guy? Are we gonna ever play on hit Varus again? Are we gonna use those draft resources for that again? Will the hens even allow that? Or is the hens going back to being like, I'm going up with my
I think
stepfather
they should play
lover
some
in the top
Kingen.
lane?
I think they should play some Kingen. I legitimately think that right now. I think Teo needs to change his play style and be willing to play weak side AD carry and just let Lehens go roam. Now it's really tough to play that playstyle in this meta. Like a lot of people have been speculating. I've seen a lot of discussion about it that they're not playing through Kingen anymore because lane swaps are dead and role quests are really important and it's hard to roam the same way that Lehens did last year. Like that's true. And maybe that's why it's just not really possible. But we have seen like a few scattered great Taeyoon games. Like not even just like, oh, he didn't throw the game. Like he had a few scattered great games where we're like, wow, really impressive. Good job.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I'm slightly biased against him because I had to cast him at Kespa Cup, which was painful for everyone. And I wanted to be I wanted to believe the rumors, and he played well at LPL. Like he's gonna be solid. Like don't worry, Wolf, it's gonna be okay. I wanted so badly to believe, so I got burned. And then there were a few times this season where I was like, okay, maybe he's all right. Like maybe we judged Kespa Cup too harshly, and then you watch this series and you're like, I guess under pressure, because especially under pressure was where he flopped the hardest at Kespa Cup. Under pressure, you just can't do it. Like the Koreans are watching. I guess they were because it was a big series. It's an important elimination match. He bombed it, and he bombed against DNS as well. Like all Nongshim had to do was beat either DNS or DRX. Like just let that sink in. They lost to both of them. Like they lost to both of them.
You've got 4
They
players
did
on
two
that
zero
roster as
Hanwha though,
well.
by the way. They did 2-0 Hanwha.
You've got 4 players on that roster. I forgot that are here to prove something, right? Like Sponge moves on from DRX. We're thinking, oh, he got out, but DRX are the one moving on. Scout, was he washed? Is he cooked, chat, or was he cooking? And they weren't having it in the LPL anymore. Comes back, he gets the solo kill in game 3. It doesn't matter, but he's been kind of up and down. Taeyoon, can he perform in Korea? No, not really. Lehens, was Jiwoo the problem? You got Jiwoo benched. You got to play with, was it Trigger? You got to play with Trigger last year. And okay, still building around you. Like, it's just Kingen, man. It's just Kingen. And you could just tell sometimes when it looks like Kingen's like, well, this is where I go in to go die, so it doesn't look like I'm a bad teammate. That's it. There's no angle there. And
Yeah,
he's just like,
but
yep.
sometimes Kingan's also got the angle of like, I've done enough of that, and I do want to be able to make money next year as a professional player. And you just see him in the side lane with TP up, and he's
Walk
hitting a
away.
turret as
Yep.
Kion, and he's like, I ain't having any part of that shit. You guys just go do it. I'm gonna hit this turret over here, and I'm gonna be
Yeah.
0-1-0 this game, and that's just exactly what I'm happy with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's Nongshim, and just such a tough run for them. And I think when it comes to other tough runs, KT, man, you remember that happened earlier this week. It feels like it was ages ago, but the second coming of the KT roller coaster coming off the tracks was this week. Wolf.
I have heard, like, we literally interviewed Ghost on the space, and I think this is true, right? They what he said and like why they picked him up and all this stuff, basically about his ability to read the game really well, his experience, right? Like he has played with at the top level, at the highest level. He has also streamed for a while. He's spent a lot of time off rolling, and he was always a player who would off roll even back in the day. And you look at his solo queue stuff. So the team believes that he has this great sense for the game, like game sense more than like mechanics. But unfortunately, from what I see in my eye test, I see that he has great mechanics. His Thresh game, for example, like he hits his abilities.
Yeah.
He hits his abilities. He's going in all the time, similar to Andil, right? Like Andil's the player who like throws every hook he can and sees
Well,
what he can
that's what I was
find.
gonna say. Similar to Andal and Palu, his competition, when they are on Nautilus. When those two are on Nautilus, like Palu looks like the better support. Off
It's
Nautilus,
just
he
that
looks like he's never played before.
But I have two issues with Ghost, and like Ghost also asserting that BDD said this about him and like why they picked him up and stuff. He is not going in at the right time
Mhm.
oftentimes. Now, maybe from Ghost's perspective, he's like, no, the team should be following me. But there was that play in their last series against DNS, I want to say, where he like went in to try to engage while the rest of his team was like already like almost finished their recalls, and like he just like went in and died, and it's like, okay, I don't think they were ever going to be able to follow up on that, stuff like that. The macro of KT is the worst in the LCK, easily the worst. It is worse than, that's right, DNS, who've improved significantly, DRX, who actually have decent macro. Hanwha macro is not great, but it's better than KT's. Bro's macro is better than KT's. Like, Bro beat Hanwha in that game with good macro. Like, Bro actually, I think, know what to do. KT don't know what to do. And like, what did KT lose? They lost their bottom duo. Was Peter the shot caller? I always was told it was BDD and Cuz, and mainly Cuz, who made those decisions. It doesn't feel like it when I'm watching these games right now. Maybe Cuz has been taken off shot calling duty because Ghost is like the guy who has the experience, the knowledge, right? Like he's the cerebral support, like Beryl, right? Like that like people say about Beryl shot calling that we hear about all the time.
Yeah.
But and Lahens as well, often spoken of the same way. I'm just not seeing, like, the decisions seem always off, and the macro is just not there. So maybe Cuz is like, I've been told by Score to shut up now because it's Ghost job, and maybe Ghost isn't making the calls, and so KT are just falling apart. But something has to change. They have to fix this. Obviously, they can't get a new support. We've talked about this. They already have two supports. There are no supports. They have these two supports specifically because they messed up the deal with Duck Dom and Peter. We have to assume, or they just wanted to save money and got rid of them. Whatever the case may be. And there's just no support talent right now. So they can't get a new support. So I've seen a lot of people calling for that. I guess it's time to get a third support. There isn't anybody to get. You just have to pick Ghost probably and fix the shot calling problem. And Ghost will get more experience playing as a pro support as time goes on. But it needs to happen soon. It really does.
Yeah.
Because this team looks like it could be bottom two if things don't change.
And it's just wild to think yet again that this was not top 2 in Korea, but top 2 in the world last year. Top 2 in the world.
Yeah,
The
and with
core
only
is
two,
still
like
there.
60%, yeah, 60%, percent of this team was that core still. Like it's not like they lost the whole team. It's not like the
Right.
DRX roster post 2022 Worlds where you're like, there's really nothing left to this one. It's
No.
barrel only. It's not like that. It's actually still BDD cousin perfect.
If there's a play that you need to watch to see the dysfunction of this team and probably where the trust is at, it's at the end of the DN Supers KT roster game after all this fiesta and all this throwing. It was when BDD is trying to backdoor the game, try to backdoor daddy it on the Azir, goes back. He then calls for the TPs to come in as well. Like BDD is like telling him, "Hey, we have to TP, we have to go in," and they're just they're just throwing their bodies at the Nexus. That was never going to work. It was never going to work. And then from that last fight, they might have been able to salvage and kind of turtled for a little bit and hang in there because someone got picked. I think it was that Elder, but like they were never going to finish the game, and they didn't.
They
And then they
had
end up losing it, and mental boomed out of the server for game 2.
they had a late game Gwen. The enemy team had a late game Gwen. So like clear waves really fast. And can, if you make a decision like that, end the game instantly, by the way, basically in every scenario. If you mess it up, you don't win those races, even with an Azir, right? And they saw the TP the first time BDD made the call. He saw the TP from one of the solo laners. I think it was actually the mid laner. And then he was like, "Okay, I can go in and make this happen." That first one, I was like, "Okay," but the second one, where they tried to make it happen, I was like, "You have to there's two things that have to be true. Really, just ultimately one thing has to be true. There's two ways to go home and defend your
There you
Nexus when
go.
something
There
like
you
this
go.
happens. One is to TP home. If you need it, you don't have empowered recall, you get it home as fast as possible, and no one can interrupt you. You can TP home, or you can recall home, right? And so, what you have to do if you're going to make a call like this is coordinate with your teammates to prevent all recalls,
Stop
so
the
that you can
backs.
win the
Stop
base.
the backs.
Yes, you have to coordinate to prevent recalls to win the game this way, and that's why we see so many games. Not as much recently, but just over the course of time, ended by teams making the call to end on Elder because the enemy team is aggroed by Elder, trying to do Elder. can't retreat. Somebody tries to go over the wall, but they're marked by the support, flashes over the wall and prevents them from recalling. And then the game ends and Nexus explodes because they're caught on Elder and can't actually go home to defend. KT didn't do any of that, and they were just like, maybe we win fast, and they didn't. And they went home and defended, and that was the end of it. Maybe they just won't realize we're gonna kill their Nexus. Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with that. That game was arguably more disappointing to me, significantly more disappointing to me because they had strong win cons than the loss to T1. The loss to T1, their comp had serious issues, like trying to close that game out, no siege, blah blah blah. And T1 is a really good team and like knew exactly what to do. I think DNS were just like, what are they doing? Okay, freebie.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Let's quickly talk, bro. We suck. All right, I think that was all we needed to talk about with bro. Yeah, it's just doom and gloom. It's doom
I
and
don't.
gloom, and Teddy still got it if he gets it at the end. You know.
Two things I feel about Bro after watching their last game. Um, like they obviously took a game and went to 3. It was interesting. Is that they can play through Teddy. They know how to do this. Teddy understands his role. It's just like the Jin Air days. Like literally, he's just like, okay, if we go late, if you guys can just be warm bodies, like I will get it done. Don't worry. Especially on Ezreal and picks like that can like insanely high skill ceiling. Where Teddy is hitting everything so hard that it looks like he's practically scripting. You're like, well, I mean, I guess if Teddy has full build and he's scripting, everybody dies, right? Like, like he barely misses, right? So that's the kind of thing you can play through. I think Breon should draft around this a little bit more. And also, Romer is starting to look a little bit more comfortable. I think Romer is starting to look like he's actually not just a potato. Like he is playing a little bit safer. He's not getting, giga clapped. He's not losing lanes so hard that the team just can't play the game. I still think his decision making has a lot of work that it needs to go through to improve enough to be considered a mid that can go toe to toe with basically anybody else. But I could see Bro being like 8th or ninth place. Like I think that could be the ceiling, not 10th. And I think I'm serious. Like I do think that depending on how this all shakes out, like will we see DRX and DNS actually maintain this form? Like have they already hit their ceiling early while everyone else is figuring things out? We don't know. Like I agree with you. I do think Bro is likely going to be 10th place, but there were some glimpses, some flashes in that series against DRX where I was like, okay, Romer's not that bad. Teddy's got the carry potential. Like he can still do it. He's still got hands. Gideon, I'm like, I'm really disappointed in you. You were my guy last year. Casting, I also told everyone, like, casting is not as bad as you guys think. And then I'm like, oh, well, I mean, it's having a bit of a tough time right now. And Namgung,
The Goonger.
there's no support talent in the LCK. There's no rising support talent in the LCK. Namgung is, we used to say this in StarCraft all the time, like, for players in StarCraft and the GSL. I'm talking about StarCraft 2. The GSL has Code S and Code A. When it eventually became a tournament that was split to where there was like a feeder tournament that went into Code S, which was really cool. Relegation existed in StarCraft basically, where you could become a Code S player by playing through this system called the up and down matches, which was like a dumb name but very very
On the nose.
plain what it meant. Yeah. And sometimes a player would get lucky or cheese his way through the up and down matches, basically relegation. And people would be like, he's not Code S level. And then there would be fans who like this player and say, well, he qualified for Code S. So actually, he's Code S level. Yeah. And this is like always the debate with me and Artosis at the bar about whether like, so such and such player. There's a player called Keen actually, was Code S level or not. He was Keen. Like I'm keen on this.
Not even like Keen, NA Keen, who does TFT now, right? The
yeah, no, not that guy
either.
Yeah. But anyway, whether Keen was Code S level or not, there is like in my mind, there are a few players you could make a debate about whether they are LCK level or not, who've like gone up and down, like Karis, for example, or Effort. Like is Effort LCK level? Like I think no, but some people still think he could play in the LCK. To me, there is no debate about Namgung. He is not LCK ready. He is not LCK level, and I hate to say it, but he might individually be the worst player in the LCK, and I hope he can get better. But he's just not even that young. He's just not even that young. He's
Okay,
22.
okay. So when you said that, the bro fan in me kind of like reacted a little bit because who were we saying? Who was I saying, Wolf? I was all over this. Who was I saying was the worst player in the LCK last year at this time? The worst player in LCK. It was very clear. I said it multiple times.
Uh, the support player for Bro.
No, it was
Who are you
not.
saying? Who are you saying? I
He
don't even remember.
is a top laner. He played in the World Finals. It was perfect, Wolf. Perfect was
Oh.
the worst player in the LCK at this time. They had
I thought you were
casting
talking about
behind him.
Bro player. I was like, no, I was saying
No,
maybe it
no,
was
no,
Morgan,
no,
but you
no,
weren't
no,
saying
no.
that. Like, okay, I
No,
thought you were
no,
talking about Bro
definitely
player.
not.
I got
No.
thrown off. I'm sorry.
So
Yes, you did say
I'm
that.
saying Namgoong's ceiling maybe can be perfect. That's the biggest bropium take I could make because I'm a bro fan. But my eyes and brain fully agrees with you. Like, he's the worst player in the league. It sucks. He sucks. And I wish
Perfect
him the
is
best and I hope he's okay.
Perfect is now a 2-year plus veteran. He is
Yeah.
also 1 year younger than Namgoong. Namgoong, you know the meme where it's like he's all right. I think he's a good guy, but he needs to work on his micro, his macro, his warding,
His
his
decision making.
positioning, decision making,
Yeah.
his
Shot
recall
calling,
timings,
communications.
his itemization. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I hate to say because I really don't like to tear people down like this, but I I think he's almost certainly I would I would bet almost anything on it that he is on minimum salary, which is fine. A lot of players in the LCK are. That's okay. But for him, it's like he might have been able to do more with his career if he was able to convince another region to pick him up instead. Frankly, like play in Latin America or play in Turkey or even honestly like on a mid team in LEC. Because I feel bad for him because now I feel like he's 22. He finally got his opportunity, and now nobody wants him like
Yeah, but
ever. And I
he's
feel so bad for that. But like at the end of the day, like what are you gonna do? But he just isn't. He just isn't built for this league. And honestly, like if you look at Paulo and Ghost, Paulo's had his opportunities. Right, he hasn't been able to make it, but he looks ready for this league. Ghost is a veteran, has been melded and molded in this league into who he is. And even though he's one of the worst performing supports right now, I'm like, well, I think he's probably going to figure it out. With Namgoong, I'm like, I don't know if this guy's going to figure it out. He's going to be gone next year before he can.
I,
Feels bad.
I guess just he didn't come into the league with last year Jiwoo. He didn't come into the league with I don't know, like expectation laden and also first time moving away from T1 Gumayushi. Who and like he's with Teddy. Like who better to learn from than Teddy? Who better to have trust than Teddy? And you know how he plays. Like Teddy doesn't really deviate from that. So like you have consistency around you and we just haven't seen anything like at least we've seen flashes of Romer. Like outside of Zolki, like in the server, we've seen Romer carry some games. He made some plays, but we just haven't seen anything, anything from him. And it's just, all right. Good luck with scrims, bro. Like, come on. Like, this is frustrating. I'm going to be an angry bro fan. It's crazy. Maybe there's dark Degon in the future where I'm no longer a bro fan. I don't know. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
they have
So
the Hanjin money, right? Like, I don't know how much that amounts to. I really hope that Bro try to this is like if I'm Bro GM right now, I do not try to pull out Snowflower or Googer. We've seen the experiments, right? We've seen the like, like Beryl is available. Let's see, like let's sign him. But I don't think that does anything for your team long term to bring like an old support, a retired support in. I'm sure they're thinking about it because I were GM, I would also be like, all right, like literally, who can we get? Because this guy is not even good enough to just be a stand-in. It's bad. What do we do? I hope that they just kind of save their money and try to build a more competitive roster next year, to be honest. Who knows? Fisher is rumored to be ill, right? Like Fisher is rumored to be like kind of, I don't even want to say necessarily hospitalized, but just unable to play basically because he's going through something. It's a big rumor. Nobody knows.
Yeah, we don't know.
Song has come out and specifically said in interviews, because they do interviews like post game interviews that sometimes go out to the press. Sometimes they actually are done, not released to the press, but given to us as like data. They'll just talk to the coaches and ask the coach permission, can we use this? And Song specifically said Romer was a last minute signing. It was a desperate situation. They needed to pull him in at the last possible second. And so that's why he's here. And stuff like that. Maybe Fisher recovers. I think he'd be able to bring some stability back to this roster potentially. I don't think Fisher is as bad as people say. I think he even had some great moments. I think Fisher was overhated by a lot of people, even though he did have like the memorable bad games, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're a bro fan, this is the meme year. You just got to keep memeing and post bro tag stuff and hope for the best. Because you're not going to Legend Group. I'm afraid you're not going to be in touching distance of playoffs. Like this is your DNF arc, and you're just going to have to hope for the best and hope that like some of those small good things we mentioned about Teddy, Romer, maybe Gideon comes back to form. Maybe you win some upset matches. Maybe you win that series against Hanwha next time. Maybe that could happen.
Did not deliver are the bros. So well, if it's been a long episode, let's lock in our preds. Let's predict it up here for playoffs. I'm cranky now. All right, playoff time. And really it's who's going to join T1 and Gen G in the finals in Hong Kong. That's really the only question. So we have a bunch of episodes until, or like bunch, 2 weeks. We have 2 weeks until then, so we
Yeah.
have at least two more predictions before we head on over overseas. Three episodes, two more after this. So let's just start with round one and round two matches because that's all that we get. We get B&K versus DN Automotive Supers. We get D pluses versus DRX, and then Gen G against whoever they select. T1 against whoever they select. We don't. I mean, we're gonna pick those two, but we can predict who they're gonna pick.
So I think
Is it?
it's BNK and DK who win, right? I think that most people would agree with that. There's a world where maybe D plus have an off day and just like Nongshim did, and like because DRX are good enough to punish you, as we've seen. Like Jiwoo and Ando, they'll get you if you're having a bad rough time,
Yep.
career looking at you. It could happen. I don't know because B and K, because they were the higher seed, like we don't really know what their current form is, and I don't feel that B and K are that much stronger than D plus, if even stronger at all, right? Like we don't necessarily know that. Obviously, the group battle and how all that worked out and how everyone got stomped by T1 and Genji made it really difficult to quantify who was really better. So I expect what will happen is Genji will pick B and K because D plus has always kind of been problematic for them, and then Genji and T1 will meet in the round 4 upper bracket finals, and D plus and BNK will eventually meet that in round 3, and we'll end up seeing that. I don't want to predict who's better right now, BNK or DK. I think I want to say probably DK, but I want more data before I can definitively actually make that call. You know what I mean? Like I think I could make some overarching ideological predictions based on I think both these AD carries have a similar play style, but the mid lane of D plus is more robust, right? Like Showmaker having an incredible season so far, Vikla not looking as strong. Same with Shiu versus Clear. I'm like, okay, Shiu's had some rough games, but for the most part, I think better than Clear. I want to lean towards D plus, but form we'll see in round one is I think really going to be the biggest indicator.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have a B&K versus D plus matchup, right? Before, like they were in the same group, they're likely to win here, and then we'll only meet in the lower bracket unless somehow they both win their respective matches against Gen G and T1 after they take care of uh, DNS and DRX, which is highly unlikely. So
I mean, keep in
it's
mind
just
there
going to
is
be a
a
high stakes
world
match.
there is a world where in round 3 it's B&K versus DK, right? DK
Mhm,
win, let's just
mhm.
say. Doesn't matter what score. Like maybe it's a close series, 3-1, 3-2. Genji beat T1 in the upper bracket finals, and then our Hong Kong lower bracket finals in front of the massive crowd, super sick, is just like T1 3-0 D plus again. And they're like, yeah, it was always going to be us, by the way. Remember when we met last time at a best of 5? Yeah, it didn't go so well for you guys.
Yeah.
That's a sad reality of how ahead T1 and Genji are right now. We're looking at it going like, okay, the most interesting two questions we have is like for this whole bracket, by the way, before we even started play-ins, yes, some interesting upsets have happened. Nongshim got knocked out, but what we really care about is there's two questions. Is Genji better than T1? Most people say yes, but we don't know for sure what's going to happen in the best of 5 because it hasn't happened yet. They played in the same group, so they didn't play against each other. So we're waiting for that matchup. We're going to get it twice. And then the other interesting thing is like, is B&K better than D plus? And it's only like, but it doesn't matter though because they're gonna lose. I'm like, yeah, okay, but it's kind of interesting. It'll happen in one best of 5. We're like, ooh, I do wonder who's tier 3 to lose to T1 or Genji. Yes, I am curious about what will happen there.
I thought you were gonna go with who's Genji picking? That that would be the other question. Is Genji or
That
T1
is
who's
also a
better, and
question.
who's Genji picking?
I expect they'll pick B&K, but I guess they'll watch the games and decide for themselves. But I think they'll pick B&K.
Yeah. All right. There you have it, everyone. Early predictions here. Yes, I am B and K and D plus as well. Sorry, just to make that clear. Uh, that was this week's episode. That was play-ins. That was the Jiwooverse. We hope you loved it. If you haven't, let us know what you want to see out of the Jiwooverse this year. Please write it in the comments now. I'm excited to see what the fandom comes out with. Maybe we get in there and you know, Papa go some things on FM Korea, see if anything sticks. But otherwise, it's been a great watch and a great ride. I like going on there and interacting with them, man. It's fun. People ask me why, but it's just fascinating to see how terrible some of these takes are and how confidently some of the fans post on FM Korea. They're just so sure this is the reason why
We
team is
gotta
lost or
do
this is
we
what they
gotta do a episode one day. Oh, we're gonna close some, but my last thing is like one day you and I are gonna do an episode here where it's like the celebrities react to tweets of them.
Oh yeah,
We
dude.
gotta do an FM Korea. We just pull some like out of context, just anything about anyone, whether they're talking about us, whether they're talking about the other casters, whether they're talking about Korean casters, whether they're talking about a player, and just show
Yeah.
you guys some of the stuff that they say. It's wild.
When
Sometimes
I
it's really
posted
funny,
my
sometimes it's really positive, but usually very aggressive.
when I posted my Joe Marsh interview, like just Korean fans hate Joe Marsh. They did not give it a chance at all. And the types of things they were saying, they weren't cancelable, but they just were not nice at all. They were just name calling and were not nice at all. And it was to Joe, not generally not to me. There's a couple guys not to me, and I checked, and then I went in to clarify, and then they said it with their whole chest. And I'm like, oh okay, fair enough. Enjoy living in your mom's house, but it's a wild place to explore, and we will do more exploring of Korean League of Legends and Korean culture next week. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next week for more Let's Cover Korea. Bye bye.